I hope you are ready because volume 1 of this video literally broke the algorithm on my channel, and it taught me two things. First, you agreed with most of what I had to say, and second, I wasn't done, not even close. But the same rules apply on this video. Every film here gets judged by the same honest standard. No special treatment, no apology, no rage, no hating, just genuine film criticism from someone who loves movies enough to be honest about them. And I saved the most controversial pick for last. Get ready, pop that tape in, I got you. Let's go do this. All right, so quick reminder before we get started, because I reminded everybody of this last time and still you didn't listen, and I had to remind again and again. Overrated or overhyped does not mean bad necessarily, nor does it necessarily mean I hate or even dislike the film. In fact, plenty of these films I really like or love. Some of them I don't at all, but some of them I do. So one thing doesn't equal the other. Same standard as volume 1, so remember that I said this when you get upset. You're like, how can he hate that? Does he hate it? Or did you just forget what I said? All right, now that that's out of the way, let's get started with the list. All right, kicking us off at number 10, might as well rip the Band-Aid off with 2014's It Follows. And it could follow right on out the door for all I care. David Robert Mitchell directed this film, and the film has been described repeatedly and enthusiastically across YouTube and movie review places and physical media places and sites on YouTube and channels as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, modern horror film ever made. Yeah, it's not. I don't understand that assessment. I've tried. I genuinely cannot get there. I've watched the movie now 3 times. It ain't that, Chief. Here's my honest filmmaker opinion, though. Objectively, not just subjective. This is a combination of subjective and objective. There are things that can be objectively true if you're evaluating technical, writing, all of those things. The central concept of this is a supernatural entity that follows you relentlessly after a sexual contact and can only be passed on through further sexual contact. What happens is it's just an STD following you around. That's all the movie boils down to. Horror works through the unknown, and that gets eliminated in here. The unknown, the unexplained gets eliminated. The metaphor is so established in this film that it takes away any misunderstanding. You're just waiting to see if it gets them or not, and that's it. And all of this sets up in the first 15 or 20 minutes of the film, so there's nothing left. There's no mystery. There's nothing to puzzle out. You know exactly what it is. You're just waiting to see if somebody passes it on to someone else. It's a slow pace that's mistaken for atmosphere, a common problem amongst modern horror fans and film goers. There's a retro synthesizer score trying to create dread, and it gets mistaken for old school. It's not. This film has created a myth around itself that people are supposed to love it. I'm not saying that it's awful. I'm saying it is nowhere near the greatest or best modern horror film. No way. And the collective agreement that is so elevated horror just blows my mind. It Follows is overrated. The STD metaphor is so on the nose. It's too deliberate to bring any genuine fear to it. It Follows, number 10. All right, now here's one I've mentioned on the channel before, and I'm ready to argue. It's 2015's The Witch, whatever you want to call it. Robert Eggers' debut film of pretentiousness oozing off in barrels. A Puritan family in the 1630s in New England, slowly destroyed by evil supernatural forces, or possibly by their own religious hysteria. I want to make an argument about The Witch that I'm going to make it with complete precision. How about that? I'm going to try to be as precise as possible because there's two parts to this argument. The first part is about the craft, which the Vivitch is deliberately and purposefully slow. Slow. I'm not criticizing the slowness itself. That can be well done. Slowness with a purpose is a legitimate filmmaking choice, and Eggers is a technically accomplished filmmaker. My criticism is the slowness serves as a philosophical vision rather than a horror vision. It is, if we just film these woods long enough, people will think it's scary and artistic. And it's not. You're just filming woods for a really long time. The dread that the witch tries to generate through this is intellectual and not visceral, and it's bogus. There's nothing real behind it. The second part about this is the philosophy. And this is where I want to be really direct, because the witch presents a universe in which faith is a weakness and good or God is bad, where goodness and religious conviction are vulnerabilities that the supernatural exploits rather than shields or protects against. The family's Puritan faith doesn't help them, it destroys them. And the film's ending, Thomason joining the witches and going into the sky and getting a long life and riches and exotic butters and laughing with genuine liberation, presents a surrender to the evil as the protagonist's reward. Listen, Robert Eggers, I've covered this on the channel. He said that directly, right? This is a celebration of that. And yeah, the young would-be cinephiles who celebrate The Witch as sophisticated horror are frequently people who don't actually like horror, who want a cultural credit of watching a horror film without the experience of genuinely being frightened. Or they're so anti-good or religion or faith that they're like, yeah, take that. And that's not what horror films are supposed to be about. Evil without good is pointless. There is no dramatic tension there. It's just a march towards an inevitable end. Overrated is my position, and I'll stand by it. And we might as well stay here and go to Midsommar from 2019. Ari Aster again. He was on my other list. I am completely in agreement with John Carpenter. I think Ari Aster secretly doesn't like horror films. He's just having to get these through the horror prism so he can make movies with A24. And listen, my issues with this are pretty specific. Here's my honest assessment. Midsommar, a couple travels to Sweden for a Midsommar festival with their graduate student friends, and the festival is a pagan's cult ritual sacrifice cycle. Florence Pugh, who's good in the movie as Danny, a young woman processing the devastating loss of her family. Midsommar is more grief therapy. That's all this is, and a march towards inevitable doom, grief, evil, and sadness without being balanced in any single way. A film about a traumatized woman finding community and ultimate catharsis through a murderous cult and taking that out on people that didn't do anything wrong. The film presents that catharsis as Danny is crowned like the queen. Sorry if you haven't seen this, spoilers. But her boyfriend is being burned alive inside, and she's laughing and crying simultaneously. Emotional liberation, because she's also become an evil, bad person surrendering to evil. But the cult is not presented as evil. The cult is presented as more authentic and emotionally honest than what she deems as a toxic relationship that she's escaping. The Swedish villagers feel warm and like community, and the Americans are purposely presented as shallow and unfaithful and culturally arrogant. It's insulting. In Ari Aster's universe, the same as Hereditary, there is no goodness, there is no God, there is no faith to balance out the evil. There are only degrees of evil and dysfunction, and the dysfunction and the evil and the grief and the despair and the hopelessness is always what wins in the end, and it's always wearing the prettiest flowers. That is not horror. That is a very long and very beautiful looking therapy session with a pagan cult as your therapist. Midsommar, visually it's pretty. It's a daylight horror movie, all of that. Fundamentally, not horror, not a good film, nothing that actually frightens you, only a march towards inevitable acceptance of hopelessness and evil. All right, now I'm going to go to a director who I love, absolutely love, and I'm sure this is going to make a lot of you mad, but 2003/4's Kill Bill, Volume 1 and Volume 2. Listen, I love Quentin Tarantino. I really, really do love Quentin Tarantino. I like Reservoir Dogs, even though it was on my first volume of this. But I think Kill Bill is towards the bottom. I think it's the bottom two films for him. Honestly think these two films in Reservoir Dogs are his bottom three. Come fight me. I think Jackie Brown is better. Inglourious Bastards is better. Django Unchained. Pulp Fiction. Much better. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's the best film he's made. Period. The end. He'll tell you the same thing. Those are the films I return to constantly. Hateful Eight, even. Kill Bill is Tarantino's weakest work. Especially the second part, is his weakest work. Every Tarantino film has some genuine truth underneath it. Pulp Fiction about redemption, Jackie Brown about dignity, Inglourious Bastards about the power of cinema itself to rewrite history, wish fulfillment. But Kill Bill is Tarantino most in love with his own references and least interested in the human truth underneath them in any way. The Bride's Revenge is presented as kinetic, crazy, satisfaction rather than a complex emotional journey. And listen, this movie completely 100% is a ripoff of Thriller: A Cruel Picture, right down to the eye patch and everything. I love Tarantino, but boy did he rip it off. He ripped that off. The anime sequences, all that, it's just too much. And the second one really goes off the rails. So even if you love the first one, the second one goes off the rails. Uma Thurman's good in this, but I don't know. Technically, this is a overhyped, overrated movie that just keeps getting more and more releases. Oh, it's the whole bloody affair. It's just two bad movies put together overall. They're fine. I own them. I care enough to own them and watch them again. Overhyped is what gets me on these movies. Kill Bill. All right, now we're going to start picking on some Academy Award winners. Might as well not, with 2017's The Shape of Water. And listen, Guillermo del Toro, I love Guillermo del Toro, often also just generally overhyped in as a whole. This film won the Academy Award for Best Picture over Lady Bird. Well, I didn't like Lady Bird either. Dunkirk probably should have got it. Nothing else that year was up there for me. I'm fine with it winning because there wasn't really that much competition. Now, I'm not up there with Lady Bird. I'm not up there with Get Out. Get Out is another overrated, overhyped movie. But The Shape of Water is basically a retelling of Creature from the Black Lagoon with a makeup and a monster that he borrowed from his own movies, Hellboy. He didn't, that's all it is. It's a romance between a mute cleaning woman and an amphibious humanoid creature held in a government lab in 1962. Visually, it's pretty. It's a Guillermo del Toro movie. It's pretty. The story underneath it is essentially a retelling of Creature from the Black Lagoon. There's not a lot of retelling there. There's not a lot of new ground to break in that. There's some fish sex in here. It's not a reversal. It's not a new idea. It's not groundbreaking. He didn't even change the way that the character looked from Abe Sapien in Hellboy. Shape of Water is a good film. I own it. It's part of the Criterion Collection. I don't hate owning it, but does it deserve all of that hype and being so built up that it wins the Academy Award for Best Picture? No! Which means that it is in the overrated, overhyped category, and that puts it at number 6 on this list. All right, let's go to 2019 for Bong Joon-ho's Parasite. Listen, another Academy Award winner for Best Picture right here. And I want to also be very precise about my argument because it requires a distinction here. So listen when I say Parasite is a well-made film. The class satire is sharp and all of that is specific. It's really no new ground, though. The tonal shift from dark comedy to a thriller is all there. The second half in the movie, and that's done with craft, and the filmmaker knows what he's doing. The performances are good in this. Bong Joon-ho is a talented filmmaker. It shows. My argument isn't that this movie is bad. My argument is that the reception, including its Best Picture win, represents the Academy and the critical establishment overcorrecting towards international cinema in a way that elevated a good film beyond its actual ceiling. The specific films that it beat for Best Picture, 1917, The Irishman, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood should have won that. No question. Like, there's no way this movie is in the same breath as Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So the argument that Parasite is better than all those films is absolutely ridiculous. And I think it doesn't hold up to honest scrutiny. It's a good film. It's not transcendent. Doesn't break a ton of new ground. It's not saying anything that really hasn't been said before. And yet it wins Best Picture of the year. This is overcorrection and overinflation. And that's why Parasite is here. All right, now next up we head to 2007 in the Coen brothers, No Country for Old Men. And listen, you got Javier Bardem in this, Tommy Lee Jones, Josh Brolin. I love Josh Brolin. I love Tommy Lee Jones. I think Javier Bardem is way overrated in and of himself. And this won the Academy Award for Best Picture as well. And I want to say something that I actually genuinely mean. I have tried many times, multiple times. I even bought the movie and tried again with genuine openness and genuine effort. I have sat with this film and tried to watch it on multiple occasions to see if the reputation that everybody gives it is there, and I don't find it. I don't find it from a fan standpoint or even a objective filmmaking standpoint. No Country for Old Men is a technically accomplished film, the way it looks, the way it's shot. The Coens are great filmmakers. Their craft is evident in all of that. The villain is pretty good here, but the film's central thesis that evil is unstoppable, that goodness is obsolete, that the world has become something that a decent man can no longer navigate or understand is delivered with so much philosophical heaviness. I find it more exhausting than anything else. Tommy Lee Jones' monologue in the final scene is the Coen brothers telling you explicitly what the film means and what the film, like the meaning, how the meaning itself has become impossible. I understand the argument intellectually. What I directly observe about No Country for Old Men is that it has a devoted fan base. It has a 100% devoted fan base, much like you're going to find with Kill Bill and those kind of movies, and probably even It Follows, but it just doesn't reach those levels. It signals, I think, in a lot of people who say they like it and they are devoted to it, they feel like liking that film and saying how much they like it signals within them and to other people a level of cinematic sophistication. The same viewer who loves The Witch and Midsommar and It Follows are probably going to say they love this because of what it says about them as social currency. Now, not everybody. There's plenty of people who truly love it, and that is totally cool too. But having watched it and tried to watch it, No Country for Old Men, technically accomplished, but the reputation that it has, the level it has been built to, is overdone. All right, now the next one is going to surprise you because I absolutely love this film. I love this film, but that doesn't mean it's not overrated and overhyped. Listen to what I say there. It's 1968's Night of the Living Dead. George Romero in a film that I want to approach with genuine respect here and make an honest argument about, because Night of the Living Dead is a very important film. A historically significant film, a film made with craft on a microscopic budget, which is something that I love and adore. My argument is specific and has two parts here. Part one, Night of the Living Dead gets credit for establishing the modern zombie mythology, slow-moving, reanimated corpses that spread zombieism through bites and they got to be stopped by destroying their brain, when actually, really, a British film essentially established those same conventions 2 years earlier. That the film is The Plague of Zombies, I believe, and I want to say 1966. Hammer Studios film, reanimated corpses, slow movement, specific vulnerability to head trauma. The mythology that Romero gets credit for solely inventing actually came a little bit before him, Night of the Living Dead. So that historical context is something that has to be acknowledged. And there were other zombie films too. There was like I Walk with Zombie and stuff like that, but they didn't have this kind of flavor. Plague of Zombies did. Part 2 of my argument. Night of the Living Dead was surpassed wholly and completely by its own sequel. Dawn of the Dead is more ambitious, it's more visually striking. Of course, now they had more budget, so that you got to keep that in mind, and I do too. But by almost every single measure, Dawn of the Dead surpassed it. And while Night of the Living Dead is an extraordinary film, I would also argue that the 1990 remake of this, done by Tom Savini, is a superior version of this film. It is a better version. It improves on the original in specific and meaningful ways that they just couldn't do then. So it's very tough to elevate this as the best ever when Romero beat it with his own sequel and the remake is arguably better. So Night of the Living Dead, great. I love it, but its reputation is probably lifted up past where it should be, considering, in my opinion, it lost to its own sequel and a remake. All right, now next up is 2019's Us. And honestly, I could pick about any Jordan Peele film because I think they're all overrated and overhyped. And I don't think he creates anything himself. I think he pulls most of his stuff from the Twilight Zone. So Us is a well-made film. Jordan Peele, he's got talent. There's no doubt about that. But I don't know how much talent he has on his own without standing on other people's shoulders, taking their ideas and their blueprint and following it. So that's where I want to make my argument. He is given credit for this being such an original film, an original idea. But there is a gap between that and the truth that's really big, because in the Twilight Zone, season 1, I think it's episode 21, Mirror Image, written by Rod Serling, is this movie. It's this movie. Completely. He barely changed anything. It's this movie. You got a woman waiting on a bus in a small town, and she begins to notice evidence that her exact double exists. And it kind of goes into that doppelganger coming to replace you, that they live in another reality, all of that. The whole central premise of Us is this Twilight Zone episode, and that they are tethered together. It is the same. And yet Jordan Peele is, because he came on the scene in a big way and he was being overblown at the time, he's being credited for an original film, a breathtaking, a unique stuff. And I'm like, I'm a huge Twilight Zone fan. I'm like, I've seen that movie before. It was this Twilight Zone episode. He didn't create anything. He took it. Now, Jordan Peele, it's obvious he's a huge Twilight Zone fan because he hosted his own Twilight Zone series that he tried to redo again. And my argument is not necessarily plagiarism here. My argument is that the critical reception of Us is a wholly original and groundbreaking work of American horror with no predecessors is not only false, it's just completely historically inaccurate. And you're gaslighting people into believing this is something new and bigger for other reasons on and off screens. Us is okay. I'm not a big fan of Get Out either. Same reasons. But there's merit to it. I mean, he takes it and brings it to new audiences, I guess. But for me, this is just standing on someone else's shoulders and taking a lot of credit for what they did, and that overhypes it, in my opinion. That's why Us is on this list. All right, finally, I promised you the biggest surprise on hear the shocking, controversial finale. And listen, I genuinely love this movie. Understand. I like this movie, and I'm not even a big fan of this particular genre of films, but this movie I am. Okay? It is Goodfellas from 1990, and I still just have the DVD because, again, I haven't upgraded, and many years ago, my bulldog decided he'd chew on it a little bit, so that's why it looks like that. But Martin Scorsese, Ray Liotta, Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro, a genuinely great American film. It is. I'm not saying it's not. Which is exactly why this segment has to be framed very carefully. Because all of you are like, oh my God, this guy's stupid. He doesn't know anything. Well, yeah, I do. There's a lot of subjectivity to this, but there's objectivity to this too. I'm not saying Goodfellas is a bad film. I'm saying that its specific, like legendary, above all else status in the placement of conversations about films is maybe not warranted. It's not the greatest crime film ever. I don't even think it's the best Scorsese film. I think Gangs of New York is better. I really do. It doesn't have as great acting from Cameron Diaz, but overall, I think it's a better film. It's always towards the top of every 1990s list, and there are plenty of films I would take above this in the 1990s. Listen, y'all, there's plenty. I'd take Jurassic Park above this film. I would. And I know that's going to kill some of you, but there's a litany of other 90s films ahead of this. Goodfellas is a great film, though. The Godfather and The Godfather 2 are greater films, and that is the difference. Like The Godfather, particularly Godfather 2, I think is a greater film. But this movie, Scorsese's direction in this is extraordinary. The performances are extraordinary. The energy of Goodfellas, the pace, the music, the needle drops is unlike a lot of other things in American cinema. And the legend just slightly outruns the reality. That's why it's here. Not because it's not a great film, not because I don't love the film. The legend of this film outdoes its reality. I'm working on a perfect films list. It's not there. There are perfect films out there. Jaws is a perfect film. Whether you like it or not, Jaws is a perfect film. From a technical standpoint, storytelling, Jaws is a perfect film. There are other perfect films. Raiders is the perfect film. Goodfellas, not there. But it is elevated not only to perfect, but beyond perfect in many ways. And that just slightly overdoes reality. So it's not that I don't love the film. It's just that the mythology of this film has overtaken the reality. So there you go. 10 films, 0 apologies for it. It Follows, The Witch, all these films that we went through. Some of them are genuinely good. Some of them I would not watch a second time if you absolutely tried to make me. Some I totally, completely admire and love, but they are not as good as their reputation and their mythology has insisted that they are. Same standard applied equally every time. I'm sure you're going to have fun arguing with this, but before you ask, yes, eventually there'll probably be a volume 3. So subscribe, hit the bell. It's okay to disagree, all of that. Do it down there. Be respectful. Have fun, like, subscribe, and if you want to enjoy more content, hit the bell and consider joining the Patreon. The link is in the description down there. You'll get your name on every video, behind the scenes looks at my filmmaking, members only videos, 4K reviews, and so much more, and everything helps the channel, and I really do appreciate it. But until next time, be kind, rewind like always. It's Chase with AV Pop Culture, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye. I know.